take a few moments to get ready? You're ready now. They're ready now.
It's hardly a formation there.
All right. No guffawing. I've said this. Okay, very good. Very well, since we are the assaulting army, you have the privilege of taking the first volley, right? And then we shall return, and so on and so forth. So, Godspeed, let's have a good one, and good luck to you. All right, men. Now, let's show them what we Brits are made of. Stand your ground. Oh! You've got one! Good shot! Very good shot, actually. That was Timothy. He's our maps and navigations expert. We'll be in a pinch without him. Good form. All right? Now it's our turn to take a volley, so... Whoa! All right, men. Let's get ready. Muskets at the ready. And, do me a favor. Let's have a little fun with this. Try and pick the one you think might be their maps and navigations expert, right? Right. Oh! Hey! No! Now you've had your turn. You've just taken 2 volleys, and we haven't even had one. Now, I know that for a lot of you Americans, this is your first parlay. But there are rules in modern warfare. We're not dumb beasts, right? Now, since you've taken 2 volleys, we will take 2 volleys, and then you may return fire. You're, in effect, losing a turn. Right. Hey! Hey! Now you know the rules. I've just explained them to you. This battle's barely even started yet, and I'm down to only a handful of men. You're doing very poorly in this war, I might say. Now, we will take 3 volleys, and I do believe we should be allowed the privilege to move forward 5 meters because of your willful violation. Oh! Oh! Who took a shot at the CO? You took a shot at the... Reprimand that man! Reprimand that man! will file a very important...
Oh man, being a slave in Russia sucks. There's no medical, no paid leave. We should, like, form a union or something.
Dude, yes. Now this little bald turd gets it. All this stuff is actually ours, and all we have to do is just take it. Hell yeah, comrades! All this stuff is ours now. Hey, look, that's my favorite coffee shop. Let's throw bricks at it. Oh, dude, that's my parents' business. Let's burn it. Take that, Mom and Dad. You guys are too rich anyway.
Oh man, that was so lit. No idea what we accomplished there, but we should definitely keep destroying stuff. Hey, is anyone hungry? Holy crap, I'm starving. Ever since we took over, there's literally no food anywhere. Why aren't the farmers farming? Guys, maybe we shouldn't have killed all the farmers. We literally just caused a man-made famine. Now there's actually people eating each other. Well, this isn't good. Now I'm back where I started. But worse. They definitely said if I just threw enough bricks at windows, everything would be better.
Happy 4th of July, everybody. And R.I.P. Trevor Moore. Welcome to Faith, Fiction, and Folklore, or as we like to call it, the Try F podcast, where we try not to F the podcast up. And today, we're going to be talking about P. Diddy, Skinwalkers, ancient cities, and the ethics of masturbation. It's going to be a all over the place kind of show. Very odd. So,
all over the place.
So, with that said, gentlemen, how are you this evening?
Right as rain.
Mr. Trevor?
Right as male.
Right as a male.
Right to. The Postal Service crushes. It's one of the only government organizations.
The Postal Service?
Yeah.
They've been stinking it up lately. I've been like 2 weeks late on my cigars for like 8 months.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
It stinks. Those are first world problems, but still.
Huh?
No, they're from Florida.
Yeah, well, I don't know what to tell you. USPS sucks.
You guys sound good.
Great, thank you very much. We never know. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, because OBS is absolutely terrible at everything. Okay, so with that said, I guess we're going to start off with Skinwalkers tonight. So, Trevor, this was your baby, so how about you walk us through what we're looking at here?
So the first video is just an elderly gentleman Navajo tribe leader. I wasn't sure. I didn't catch his name, but he's from the channel. What's it called? I can't see it.
Oh, hang on here.
Read it. It's small.
One of the reasons where
It's called the Navajo Traditional Teachings Channel.
Navajo Traditional Teachings.
Yeah,
channel.
it's on.
And
Sorry, go on.
He's just telling a story about what skinwalkers are, where they came from. It's just a story. So if you like
they're giants with deer heads.
Giants with deer heads. Well, he kind of tells it from the Navajo side of things, so it's very interesting to me. I don't know if you guys will like it or not. But
I found it interesting, mainly because it shows that the Fed doesn't know what it's talking about. Skinwalker Ranch is silly. It's probably just alien tech being disguised as... Well, yeah, we've talked about it before. The Fed's Scooby-Dooing it, so... Yeah. But this guy, we thought since we talked about Skinwalker Ranch, I guess we're going to cover the actual history of the Skinwalkers and all of that good stuff, I guess.
Well, I don't know if he says any history.
Well, he gives a concise definition?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, before I forget, because I'm an idiot, I need to put my headphones on, because at some point, we will get an echo if I don't.
Oh, hey.
I can't believe I forgot to do that. So, hang on here.
You hear my coffee?
I'm not hearing an echo on the live this time.
Are you not? Sweet, maybe I did it right for once. Let me turn this up.
It looks so much cooler with the headphones on, though.
Oh, well, yeah, I do look cool with the headphones on. I'm the best around. So, that's what we're going to say.
Heck yeah.
Not like I'm a little insect. I feel like an insect when I put these on, so I hate it. But anyway.
Yeah.
All right, I'm rambling. Let's get into it. We're starting off with some traditional teachings from the Navajo.
Okay.
people, when individuals of any background, they don't have to be Navajo, they can be other tribes or even white people or black people, when they begin to ask about the ways of the Diné in skinwalkers and other witchcraft and the black arts and that, we get suspicious of anyone, because if you begin to learn
My bad.
just a little bit, that interest in learning will grow, and eventually you will be recruited by the evil one, and you will help the demons and that to spread the things that are wrong, and you will be in a position
I don't remember the
to...
drums being this
feel like-
jarring.
I feel like I'm influenced by demons just listening to these.
I know.
drums.
I'm feeling a twitch, man. It's like, oh,
Yeah, it's getting me into it like a panic.
yeah,
Don't forget to guard your heart.
overstimulated. Yeah.
Right,
evil
there you go.
spells and to say evil prayers and to say evil things against people, to do ugly things to society and to the people that we love around us. That's why the Net don't like to share that type of information with anyone.
What did
He's
you just call me?
He's just speaking.
Why are you making
Navajo.
it about you, Cody?
He's after
my
you.
birthday.
Oh, right. Well, happy birthday. I was getting distracted by this loading bar here. I thought he was like gonna turn into like a video game villain or something.
But
I was like, what is
That's
this?
that's his loading bar for him speaking in Navajo. here.
Oh.
It's like an intro almost. I
Oh, okay.
Can we skip
I don't
it?
know.
guess. Yeah, you can jump to the end of it if you want.
In the
There we go.
traditional teachings of our people,
There you go.
the teachings about demons and the evil one and how they are able to operate among us as the five-fingered being. The evil one is the actual person or being that is in charge of all of the other evil beings, and those are the demons. And the evil one actually has his origin as known as the Black Yei or Yeishin, and his primary goal
Black Yay?
is to be an
Yehi.
obstacle.
I thought he said Yeti.
I'm sorry. Oh,
No,
Yehi.
Yehi.
Oh.
I was thinking like the Black Yay. Like,
Oh,
Yay.
yes. The guy who wrote Tiny
Or that.
Mustache Man or something, right? That one. That one. So,
hey, he's got a song. He's got a song called "What God Is." Man, it slaps.
it slaps, huh? I'm old.
Like
I'm
slap jam?
old. You have to tell me what that means.
It's like gospel music, but it's great.
Oh, okay. So slaps means good. Okay. I was thinking slap somebody or something because it's bad, but okay, I guess that's. I don't know what I was thinking, but
No,
I was like
come on,
thinking
Gary.
slaps. Yeah, I don't know why that would be a good
gotta keep
thing.
up with the kids'
I'm
rhetoric.
old. I'm old. I'm dying. So I'm on my way out. So. All right.
To be in opposition or the adversary to the things that are good, that are made good by the holy people and given to us. And he does everything in his power to make sure that he has some way perverted their effort. And the demons are the ones that help him. And they are not physical in any way beings, but they do have influence over so many of the things that are around us in a physical setting. And they can do things that are of the supernatural nature and actually have an effect on us as the five-fingered being. Is what we are told. And the demons actually have about 4 different names that we apply to them as the way that they have power. And the witchcraft is one of them. And Atakash is another one. Ante is another one. There's a 4th one that I don't like to give a name to. And that is more of a physical type of an attack on the human body. If you are weak in a spiritual way, or an emotional way, or in a mental way, when those are combined, they can attack you. And it is that what they can inflict upon you is actually physical illnesses, and that can deteriorate your body to where it's almost nothing. And so those are the type of powers that they actually have. But in modern times, and that the influence and that the evil ones have, they take any type of form. They come in all sizes and shapes, either as physical five-fingered beings or even material type of things to distract us. And that is the main thing, is the adversary is always making the effort to distract us from the things that are right and good.
Like
And
aliens.
so it is that
Like
we have
aliens?
Like
So
aliens.
do you think the Skinwalkers are disguising themselves
A
as
type of
aliens?
Alien.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I actually like his theology. I like it. It checks out with what I think. I mean,
Better than dualism.
he's saying like you know so in our Ghost Stories episode about Pete,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The more negative energy that you put in that place, like the more he manifested, for lack of
Right.
a better word. So it's like
Yeah.
the more negative energy you give him, the more he grows and becomes a physical kind of being.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of what
Yeah.
he's saying. It's kind of
No, I don't disagree with it. I thought he was going to go with the dualism thing for a moment whenever he did the stupid circle, or whoever the editor was did the circle thing. But he didn't go that way. So, yeah, I'm not disagreeing with him either.
in our own traditional teaching, what we have is the Skinwalker. The Skinwalkers are actual beings or people, the five-fingered being that have great knowledge of the dark side, and they are able to do the flatline and to actually be.
You gonna sing the whole thing, or are you gonna get copyrighted if you do that?
George
Yeah,
Lucas
let's-
will be pissed.
It's Disney.
Yeah, I guess it is Disney, isn't it? Stupid mouse.
Between here and the next world and in spirit form and able to do things to get around and do the evil that they can do. And that is very evil in so many ways. And so those are the ones that we call Yenans Doshi. And I don't like to talk about it, and the Net don't like to talk about it. It is that they have control over so many things in the world today. The demonic influence on that that is available, or we have, and it is always for distraction. And one of the main things that they
It is fascinating that this does align very closely with like Christian demonology. The idea of this stuff being around distraction and all that. Yeah, like that's... In fact, people that are in this realm of dealing with demons and stuff, they don't like to talk about it. They keep pretty hush-hush because they understand talking about it gives it power and all this. And so that's actually a common theme. So I do find that interesting that that's something that spans cultures. So...
Yeah. Well, it is a theory that the Native Americans were like one of the 12 tribes of Israel
I think
originally.
the Mormons believe that, if I remember correctly. I think it's them. I think so.
Like if you look at the Hopi prophecy, it like checks out with Revelation real close.
Interesting.
So it's kind of, it all came from the same text.
There's a lot of similarities to the degree that it's kind of peculiar. I do think it kind of matches with the migration theory that the young earth creationists kind of have, though. Like a lot of these traditions are so similar because we all basically came from the same region. So, food for thought. Actually, I think we're going to move on because I don't want to just steal this guy's entire video. So we'll move on to the next guy. If you want to watch the rest of this, it is Skinwalkers, Demons, and the Evil One. And the YouTube channel is Navajo Traditional Teachings. Again, that is Skinwalkers, Demons, and the Evil One. And the YouTube channel is Navajo Traditional Teachings. So, up next, we've got a video called The Truth of Skinwalkers, Stories from the Navajo Nation. I'm going to butcher this guy's name. Apologies.
You just call him Sean.
Sean Klin, or Sean.
Yep.
Shadow Productions. The YouTube channel, Sean Klin, Shadow Productions.
He's basically a guy our age that explains it more how we'll understand. People our age will understand better. And he's basically saying the same thing. So if you want to skip his whole intro, it's like the 4-minute marker.
Okay, great. That would be fantastic.
His intro's 4 minutes?
Well, he explains that he's going to start doing channel stories like this, where he kind of gives his view and his traditional side of it.
Yeah, he seemed to... Sorry, go on.
The first part of the video was just to him fake Skinwalker channels showing short clips of what we've been taught Skinwalkers are, and he basically says it, and he's like, none of those are actual Skinwalkers.
Yeah, he seemed very annoyed that people were getting the lore wrong. That was one thing I got from him. So I'm thinking we'll watch this guy for a few minutes, and then he actually has a story of a Skinwalker interaction that he had.
Yeah.
So I thought we would end this episode on that, just to give you a sense of how these things operate. And it's actually quite similar to the shadow demon story that I spoke about back in Halloween. So it's just, again, pointing out those similarities. It's like kind of the same kind of beings, but they just have different names in different cultures and places and times and stuff. So, all right, so we'll start with this guy's discussion of the subject.
So, where does the Skinwalker come from? Where does the Yanagloshi come from? Where do they hail? Where do they live? Hell, might even know what they eat. Just kidding. But Skinwalkers and Yanagloshis originate from the Navajo Nation. Hundreds of years ago, medicinal people used to go to our 4 sacred mountains that border the Navajo Nation. 2 in Colorado, 1 in Arizona, and 1 in New Mexico. Now, these medicinal people would have to traverse the land very quickly to be able to do this ceremony within a couple days. So, the spiritual people taught these medicinal men how to shapeshift, how to turn into animals, how to turn into deer, how to turn into coyotes, how to turn into hawks. And so they use this power to be able to traverse the land for good, to do really good medicinal ceremonies, to be able to help patients. And in that old sacred way, they used to do this. But to be able to learn how to shapeshift was a very, very, very hard task and was not easy to do. So what people used to have to do, they used to spend years of their life learning the songs, going through ceremonies to be able to learn how to shapeshift into these animals. Now, there's a lot of people that were out there that were like, man, this is taking too long. I can't do this, you know, I can't stick with this. Now, when that happened, evil and darkness heard their voice as well, heard their prayers, searching for an easier way to do this. Darkness and evil said, come here. I know how to make you shapeshift real easy, but there's a couple things that you have to do to be able to obtain this power. So some people were just like, well, what do you have to do? There's certain steps and ceremonies you have to do to be able to learn how to shapeshift the way we do. First off, you have to sacrifice a loved one, an immediate loved one. Whether that be your lover, your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, or your child, or your grandparents. Somebody that you love and hold close and dear to your heart. You'd have to take...
I'm kind of thinking the same thing as you, Cody. It's like, well, that crying kid was a little over the top. Good night.
A little over the top, yeah.
them out into the reservation, into the darkness.
Yeah, that's a little hokey too, just saying.
Yeah. You would have to sacrifice them to be able to first step and to obtain this power. Now, I know this is really dark, this is really gruesome, but this is the truth of how Yanagloshi become to be. So, there's some other steps that you have to take that I'm not going to actually
But we do have to point out that these weird, creepy entities always say, sacrifice your kids. It's like a through line in every culture. It's weird. It's almost like it's the same being talking. So.
Yeah, almost.
Yep.
Like...
to you, because a lot of that is very gruesome, and I'm not going to go into detail because a lot of it we're going to keep sacred here. But once you complete all these tasks, you're able to learn how to shapeshift into evil and darkness.
So scary.
I know, right?
Now, a lot of things that everyone seems to forget is where these skinwalkers come from. The Navajo Nation itself holds a lot of sacred power within its borders, and a lot of songs and ceremonies that tie into the mountains, the land, the sky, and its geological point where it's at. So a lot of times, if you were to be a skinwalker, you draw power from the natural landscape that you're at. Now, am I saying that there couldn't be a possibility of a skinwalker leaving the Navajo Nation? No. If they're really pretty high skilled enough to be able to leave the Navajo Nation, say go to the East Coast or learn how to shapeshift over there, use the mountain terrain over there and everything, yes, it's possible, but very, very unlikely. So what are some of the traits of a skinwalker? What are the things they can and cannot do? Can they turn into an elephant? Yeah, maybe, but you know, they have to go and hunt and kill an elephant, wear its skin, and do the whole ceremony. Yes, they can turn into animals, they can shapeshift into anything, almost anything really, but they would...
At the risk of being inappropriate, do you ever wonder if these guys just put on a bunch of random animal skins, got really high, and said, I'm a donkey?
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that it's like, you know, they say like when you black out, you're not driving anymore. I mean, you could get fucked up on peyote and...
yeah, I'm wondering if that's where some of this comes from.
You're kind of, you're being possessed by a demon, you know, more or less. And, you know, at that point, you're going to do what the demon wants, which, I mean, you could kill people or whatever. And so, like, I mean, like, meth heads do bad stuff.
Yeah,
right?
Like they're going berserk, but they're wearing an animal skin at the same time.
Right.
That's one theory for some of it. I mean, we're just exploring all possibilities. We're not saying anything one way or the other.
Yeah.
We're just listening to a story here.
We're just listening, man. So we're gonna let him just. It's the purple. So
Purple rain.
we'll let this guy finish
rain.
describing him, and then I want to listen to his story, his actual account. We'll go on.
Have to be able to kill the animal, skin it, mark it up with its markings and designs, put it through its own ceremonies and rituals to be able to prep it to be able to be worn and shapeshift into. Now, I've seen a lot of videos of people out there saying like their dog, looks weird, or there's, all these other things like a poodle or something small. To be honest, Skinwalker is not going to skin a poodle, put it on its back, and be able to shapeshift into it.
Unless he's on meth, as we were saying.
The meth head poodle Skinwalker.
Yeah, I've also noticed that the Skinwalker stuff kind of kicked up again right when AI was getting started. Because whenever these AI videos first came out, you'd see these animals and creatures kind of morphing from one thing to the next because the computer couldn't figure out what it was doing. So,
yeah. I'd been hearing about it for years because I used to listen to creepypastas all the time. But then it got it really took off traction when that Skinwalker Ranch show came out.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, I mean,
And people are like, what's that? That's a cool word.
Yeah, that sounds spooky. Yeah. Well, I remember back in 2014, 2015, they were talking about Skinwalker Ranch, but it was always like alien stuff, looking for lights in the sky, that kind of thing. So, in which case, my place is haunted too. So, anyway, all right, let's see.
What's that behind you?
Oh, who knows? Who knows?
Dun, dun.
All right, so this is his actual story, which I found kind of interesting. So we'll play this.
Now, when the tobacco starts flowing and burning, it's going to be a really good story. And I have a very exciting
Not talking about tobacco.
creepy tale for you. A lot of people have been asking and requesting for more Skinwalker tales. And I have a very, very creepy one for sure.
Like that logo. The only bad thing I'll say about it is now every time I see that mask over somebody's face, I think about the stupid era that was the last 4 years. It's not as menacing anymore. COVID really ruined that aesthetic.
Oh, yeah. They do.
It's like, oh, that native's a Democrat. Aw. So.
Oh, that is welcome back to another
Calling
episode
your
of Sean
names again, Cody. All right.
Yeah, I know it.
and Shadow Productions. Like I mentioned in my intro, you guys have been asking and wondering where all the Skinwalker tales are, and I try, as far as for the lore and teachings about them, I'm pretty much covered about everything, but I still have a couple more personal experiences that I'm willing to share with you, and this episode is going to cover just that. So, this is going to be a time when I would say about 17, 18 years old. So I had a couple years of experience of training against these evil things, darkness, started going out with my brother and my uncle at the time. Now, this trip involved myself and then a couple loved ones as well. And we were making an overnight trip over to the reservation. So in this story, this trip was, I would have to say, a little bit different from the normal times that we would go out to the reservation. So my brother and my uncle at the time were busy and they weren't available to come with me out to the reservation. So it was me and a couple loved ones. We went out to the reservation to my great grandmother's home. And so this trip was going to be an overnight trip over there because early in the morning we were supposed to go butcher sheep. And so we ended up arriving at my great grandmother's house, I would have to say about 10 or 11 o'clock. So normally my great grandmother, she goes to sleep when the sun goes down. She's old, she's traditional like that, Then the only one else that was awake was my other grandmother, who takes care of her and looks after her. And so normally whenever we would sleep there, we sleep in the living room. I normally sleep on the couch. And it was around springtime, so the weather was really good, nothing too crazy. It was a good drive out there, just speaking with my loved ones, having a good time, sharing stories. And when I went out there, like I said, it was already dark, so everybody was getting ready to go to bed. I was tired from school that day, and probably I think I had to take a test or something like that. It was something really stressful. I remember that aspect of it. But we get our bedding ready, we get everything ready because we normally have to get up before the sun comes up to be able to go get the sheep, be ready to butcher, and then we had to make our way back home. So typically, whenever we would spend the night out there, normally my older brother and my uncle would be out there as well, but this certain time they were busy, so it was just myself. So that was something that I was thinking about, honestly, on the whole drive over there, because when they came up and told me that we're going to be heading out there, I was thinking, like, I asked my brother, I asked my uncle, I was like, you guys coming out there? They're like, no, we're busy. Just look after our loved ones that are going out there, and it's going to be up to you now. I was like, shit. So I ended up bringing up my weapons. At the time, I brought my sword, and I didn't have any firearms at the time. And
you have thoughts, Cody?
Felon.
He's a felon.
And also his uncle and brother tricked him and just scared the shit out of him.
It's a snipe hunt. Bring your Aragorn sword. It'll deal with the Nagloshi. Oh.
It would have to say maybe around 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, my great-grandmother's dog started barking. And I've kind of grown to accustom my body to listen while I'm asleep. So when something like this happens, I immediately get up. I wake up, and especially with a hostile situation.
Also schizophrenic.
What is it? Reminds me of that. I hate when people pull that. I've trained my body like, because it reminds me of Get Smart, where it's like the agent's always like, I trained my body to all sorts of narcotics. And then somebody hits him with a poison dart. And he's like, that's a new one. And then he passes out. So we'll take his word for it, though.
Yeah, sure.
That we could be in. You always kind of have to pretty much be ready whenever something like this happens. So I get up, and my loved ones that came with me on the trip were asleep, and I was like, okay, so it's pretty much going to be up to me now to make sure nothing happens. So I made sure to got my boots on, I got my jacket on just in case, and I just sat there on the couch for a little bit, and I waited and I listened, because normally on the reservation you have animals that show up, normal coyotes, but one thing I remembered is the whole point while we were there. We're there to butcher a sheep, and sometimes coyotes, even though they could be just normal, coyotes go out there and they try to eat the sheep that's out there. So they could be out there trying to eat one of our sheep. And so I'm sitting there, and not too long after, the dog started barking, and I was already sitting down, just kind of waiting there, listening inside the house. I started hearing coyote calls. And
I might be the only one that has any experience with this. I don't know. I can't remember if you guys had cows or knew anybody who had cows at one point. I'd never heard of coyotes going after livestock. I'd heard of, like, ironically, domestic dogs. Like, domestic dogs would form packs and go after the cattle and stuff, which we had to deal with that before.
My neighbor actually had a coyote problem.
So the coyotes will do that.
With what, though?
With his cow.
Would the coyotes go after with?
He had one cow.
The cow.
Calf.
One cow.
The baby. He only kept like a handful of cows.
Right.
And so one of his cows had a calf, and whenever his cows would have that calf, because that's what he would do. He would breed it and then breed them and then separate the bull, and then anyway, so he started getting llamas and donkeys to solve the problem.
Yeah, no, they would.
I mean, I would argue that like a herd of cows would fuck up some coyotes, but like if you have like 3 cows, they might try it.
That's the thing that I was curious about. Like I'm kind of ignorant on it. Like I said, I know like actual tame dogs will form packs and go after livestock, but for as often as you hear coyotes constantly in the woods yipping and stuff, I don't know if I've ever actually seen a pack of them. I've only seen coyotes do the scavenger thing. I've never actually seen them as a group go after livestock before. Not saying they don't. When he brought that up, I was like, you know what? I don't think I've actually seen that, which is odd. I've seen, lots of coyotes, but just never in a pack, which is weird.
I've never seen any in a pack. I've definitely heard packs of them.
Well, they're all in those woods. They just yip at each other. I don't know if they're I don't know if they're yipping in a pack or if they're just real close together or what. But yeah, good night. It sounds like there's hundreds of them out there sometimes, but yeah, it's kind of crazy. But anyway, I don't know.
I'm just trying to imagine this overweight guy with a sword fighting coyotes. I mean, that's
You wouldn't go after him with the sword. That's not a good plan. No, you want a shotgun.
You never know. He might have a katana.
Well, I assume when he says sword, I am thinking Lord of the Rings, one of those tinfoil claymores that's flopping in the breeze. You know?
Yeah.
What do I know? Maybe he had something else. I don't know.
Shoot, man. Well, so many things started running through my mind. I was just like, are those real coyotes? Are those Yanagloshis? I'm not 100% sure, so I'm going to have to go and, handle things myself.
With my sword.
Luckily,
I do want to point this out. Like, if we're going to assume this guy's story is like, he's telling the truth, which I'm not saying he's lying. We're just poking fun at him for bringing a sword to deal with coyotes. That's ridiculous. But I just want to point out, according to this guy's own tale, he starts out hearing coyotes and thinking Nagloshi. So if there is some,
he's scaring the shit out of himself already. Plus, he's got what do you call it when you can't sleep?
some kind of insomnia. Yeah.
Insomnia. Yeah, he's like already like
Yeah, he's keyed up going out. So if there is something out there, guess what form it's going to take?
Right.
So, all right, moving on. Trevor, were you going to say something?
The Nagloshi.
Nagloshi, yep.
Mother was such a warrior that my mother and grandmother used to tell me stories that whenever these things used to kind of come around, she always had a shotgun that was by the door. So when you open it, you'd be on that
that's
back
what you would
side
do.
Right there.
His grandma's smart.
My mother and my grandmother used to tell me
Grandma
stories
actually grew up knowing how to take care of cattle. Yeah.
When things would come around, she had no hesitation or fear. She would grab that shotgun and just one hand and just go out there and just start blasting and stuff. So she still had her weapon there. She still had her shotgun there. And the bullets were kind of just standing up there. So I took them. And then one of my loved ones woke up and they're like, "Where are you going?" I was like, "I got to go take care of this, make sure nothing's happening." They're like, "Okay, be careful." So I walk outside and the temperature was cold, man. And like I said, it was springtime, so it was colder than most compared to where I lived in the border town at the time. And I start making my way over to the sheep corral. Now, the sheep corral, I would have to say, is about 200-300 yards east of where the homestead is, kind of in a canyon area. So I'm walking and I'm vigilant. I'm looking left and right. And the whole time I'm just thinking, like, my brother and my uncle aren't here, so all my training is going to pretty much lead up to this point if anything does happen. So I end up walking and I keep walking. The dogs are just going crazy and the coyote calls are getting more.
What training? What training? You're training in jail?
Training.
I doubt it's very effective training, hence the sword. I will say that.
More and more, and one thing I noticed when I was walking was those coyote calls were coming from different directions, so they were all spread out around the sheep
But I will
corral.
say this, never once in my life have I ever been like, I heard a coyote and thought, oh, I bet there's a demon out there. I wonder if there's a demon. I'm like,
it's probably
it's a demon coyote. Yeah, I've never led with that conclusion before.
And by the time I made my way over to the sheep corral, the sheepdogs are barking at me because they didn't really recognize me. So I went over there, I pet them, I calmed them down, but they were still like on guard. And the sheep were all just kind of corralled and gathered up in one corner of the sheep corral. And
Which, to be fair, animals do that when they are getting harassed by animals. They'll bunch.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I was there and I just remember loading around inside of the gun, and I had my sword with me too on my back, and I was just looking around and I heard all the coyotes.
Okay, I'm gonna criticize myself. I missed the sword thing the first time. I might not have played this if I'd caught the sword thing the first time I was listening to this. That went past me.
He calls around me, so I just went fired off one round. Everything got quiet. All the sheep kind of freaked out a little bit. You hear their bells moving.
He's got the Luke sound effects going.
Yes, he's got a lot of sound effects. I don't think they're helping his story much, though. Like,
Oh,
you
I like it.
It keeps your attention. It keeps your attention. We'll say that. So.
He stopped, and I was like, okay, well, hopefully that scared them off. And then I hear, and I turn and look to my left. There's a little hill that kind of goes up right there, and there's a tree, and there's somebody standing there. And I pointed up the gun, and like, I'm not gonna lie, like I kind of gasped a little. I was like, and then I turned and looked, and I pointed the gun, and I said, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" And like I said, the only people that were there were my great grandmother, two of my grandmothers, and one other loved one that I had with me at the time. And I pointed the gun up there at them, and I asked, "What are you doing? Who's here? Announce yourself." And they didn't say anything. They just stood there. And sure enough, I hear another. I turned it, like I had my gun still on them, and I turned and looked, and there was somebody else. I'd have to say about 50 yards away at another tree right there. And then the dogs just started barking and going crazy. And so when I looked and I turned back, that person was gone. And I was like, fuck. And where I was, the sheep corral was, like how I said, it was kind of in a canyon. So there's two hills that come down. I was standing in the middle. The sheep corral was right here. There's two people that way, and it leads up more into a canyon that way. So I was just hitting myself on the back of the head and just kicking myself. I was like, I put myself in an ambush position. And I remember I was freaking out, and just the things that were running through my head was,
is that what he said?
there's no one else here.
I think he was speaking metaphorically, like he's kicking himself, like.
Right, but that's hilarious.
Oh, because he kicked himself in the back of the head?
Yeah, and just so you know, this was his brother and his uncle on the hill.
Oh, I didn't think about that, but you might be right.
Yeah. They're totally.
Oh, that makes so much more sense than where I was going with it. Wait till the rest of the story. I think you're right, Cody. I think you're right.
And I gave warning. I was just like, if you don't leave, I'm going to take a shot at you. If you don't leave, this is what's going to happen. Sure enough, they just stood there. I aimed, got it, fired. Pulled the trigger, and I shot toward the person. They didn't move. The bullet went right through them, and I was like, holy crap.
Oh my God.
I was going to say, it's interesting he didn't assume he missed. He just went right through him. You know,
These people were probably 100 yards away.
Yeah.
Maybe it was buckshot.
That's true. If it was a shotgun.
Then they would have died. Why would a Skinwalker have a gun, bro?
Just, they like to copy noises.
Yeah, that's where he's going, as he was saying it was copying the noise, but.
Okay.
But yeah, I would have just assumed I missed. I wouldn't assume the bullet went right through him. I mean, I wouldn't have been like, I'm such a great shot. That's impossible. So, I'm just...
Even though I'm a felon and not allowed to have guns. We should call the cops on this guy for admitting to using a firearm.
Oh, I'll leave that to you.
Is a Yanagloshi. This is a Skinwalker. Not in the physical form. This is more so of the Yanagloshis and Skinwalkers. It's in the spiritual form. And sure enough, I saw that red glow of their crystals start to glow more. And I saw that glow slowly start making its way over toward me. And I turned and looked where that other person was. He was north of me, where he was at the sheep corral, and he was on the other side of it right there, and the dogs were just barking. And at this point, I was really relying on the dogs to kind of sense out and smell where these beings were. And as that person started coming closer, how people ask me, how do you see spirits? How do you see these certain things? And if the situation does arise, I can see them pretty kind of clearly, but in the silhouette or shape of a human being, but it's more so microwaved with heat waves, I guess you can say. But what really gave it off was that red crystal that they...
Okay, I'm not going to make fun of him on that point, because when I see weird stuff, it's always like cartoon two-dimensional stuff that makes no sense. So,
what's the red crystal?
Apparently these things have like crystals and stuff are part of their ritual. And so when they're astral projecting, I guess that crystal's on them or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically.
So,
And it's usually always red.
Yeah.
So they usually have like red glowing eyes or a red vibe.
Yeah, my point is though, when people do see stuff, a lot of times it's like how they see it's different. Like me and Trevor during that episode in October, we were talking about how he sees a lot of vaporous stuff. When he sees like, what'd you say, a little kid at one point, and it looked like the Ring or whatever. Trevor.
Oh, the Ring
yeah.
bitch. Yeah.
And then like I would see like cartoon heads, kind of like Amityville Horror, where it's like the two-dimensional, but it's, you know, it's there, but it's like oversaturated and kind of fake looking. So it's like when people see stuff, they see it just a little bit different, and it's always interesting to kind of probe people to get them to describe exactly what they saw, because it's always just a little bit different. So
Yeah.
I won't fault them on that point,
All right.
but it's an interesting little detail. So where are we at?
Still in the
I had
details.
another thought and I lost it. Anyway. Oh, yeah.
Are you bloviating?
No, I'm not bloviating. I'm forgetting. No, what I was going to say was about the dogs, relying on the dogs and stuff. I keep trying to do that with my dog, and it fails, because I'll go out there, out of the house at 2 or 3 in the morning and smoke a cigar. And every once in a while, there'll be something in those woods, because I live right across from a national park. There'll be something in there, and they'll snap a twig or whatever. And I keep expecting the dog to get on high alert and, point or do something that, indicates that it's intrigued, and she just lays there. And I'm like, you're useless. If somebody attacks me, I'm going to die. Thank you.
Well, dogs usually smell stuff before they hear it.
Maybe he knew it was an armadillo, or she knew it was an armadillo or something.
It's normally an armadillo.
So, I'm just saying, if it wasn't an armadillo, I'm going to die. That's just all I'm saying. My dog is useless. So.
Could have been a skunk.
Yeah.
So he was coming closer, and I took another shot, but it went straight through. And I said, all right, this is enough. So, I ended up putting the gun down, and I drew my sword. And
I knew he was going to say that.
And as they kind of came closer, I just gripped my sword, and I was just thinking, and then I started praying, and then I started singing some songs, 2 protection songs. And luckily, as he started getting closer, I was looking around like... I really wish I had frog eyes to where I could look at one person and another eye would be scanning, but I was using my peripheral vision, sensing everything out, and I was just ready at that point. I didn't try to make the first move because there was still a little ditch between me and him. And as that person, that spirit, started making his way over to me, the dogs started barking in the direction right behind me, and I sensed somebody standing right behind me. So I turned and I looked, and that Yanagloshi already had Wishte, and I couldn't move. And at the time, like how I said, I didn't have...
So that's sleep paralysis, basically. Wishte. Now he's holding his hand up. There's either 1 to 2 things this could be. I can't remember which it is. It's either the bone powder that is like a curse, or it's the sleep paralysis thing, or they paralyze you. You know what I mean?
They blow dust at you, and it makes you freeze.
No, they'll freeze you, and then they blow the bone powder in your face, and that's supposed to be a curse that's either going to kill you or create misfortune or some such thing. So that's what I can't remember what that specific word's referring to, though. So I don't remember. I'm thinking it's the bone powder, since he's got his hand kind of up like that.
Everything. I wish I had some of the sacred medicines and herbs, and this one time I forgot because I was tired, what have you, whatnot. I forgot to partake and eat those medicines that kind of counteract the paralysis effects of the Yanagloshi. So I turned and looked, and as I looked, it was just my head that turned. I had my sword and I was gonna go, but I was frozen, and it felt like a giant cramp that overtook my body, and it hurt. And I tried moving, but it was just a couple seconds that Yanagloshi was standing right there, and he had that Washte, that bone powder poison, and so he went like that. He blew it inside of my face, and all I could do is I tried not to breathe. I tried not to do anything, but it was already in my eye, all over my face. And sure enough, luckily one of the dogs from the sheep corral, jumped over the wall of the sheep corral and went and started barking, and he almost bit that Yanagloshi that was right there. So sure enough, when that dog jumped over, that Yanagloshi saw it and he ran. And that second one that was coming disappeared. Like after that dog jumped over, the, I guess you could say, the paralysis effect of that being was gone, and I turned and looked, but then like it turned this way real quick, and that other Yanagloshi that was standing over here was gone, that I took shots at. So they were gone, but I had all that stuff on me, so immediately like I tried wiping all that stuff off.
Okay, I'm gonna stop it here because his family gives him a ceremony and he's all better. That's the end. If you want to finish watching this, it's called The Night I Almost Lost Everything, Tales of Navajo Skinwalkers, and the channel is Shanklin Shadow Productions. That is Shanklin Shadow Productions. Title of the video, The Night I Almost Lost Everything. So, I was going to make the comparison with basically demons, the 9-foot shadow people that people talk about seeing, because when you think Skinwalker, you're thinking somebody's turning from like a hawk to a person or something, but in this case, you get, demons. And he was thinking Skinwalker from the beginning, so the manifestation matched what he expected. That's where I was going with it. I like your explanation better. It was his brother and uncle messing with him. I kind of like, that's probably what happened. But this was a snipe hunt for Navajo. So
yeah, it's really what it sounds like.
I kind of think you're right.
I don't know why the dog, if it was a spirit, why the dog would have scared it off.
Well, they do see them. Like one of the weird instances I had,
Well, sure, yeah, I believe that, but they're not scared of dogs.
Yeah, that's true. I've never seen it. It's not like it would run it off. So that's true.
Right.
Trevor, what do you think, sir?
I agree. Yeah, you pretty much said it all.
So you think it was a actual shadow entity manifesting as an Agloshi, or do you think it's the brother and
more
uncle?
than likely.
I know we're being a little tongue-in-cheek, but what do you honestly think, Trevor?
Honestly?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think it was the demons.
Okay.
And then his mind, formed the demons into his reality.
Yeah.
Because that's what he
does
believes.
Sound like he was like gripped by fear.
Yeah.
Like he like he was scared before he even went to his grandma's house, and it just like compounded and compounded.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he manifested so much fear that it actually happened.
Yeah. Well, if there was something out there, he already had expectations for the thing to, mimic. But that's what they do. That's what we talk about on here when we are talking about demons. It's mimicry. All they do is mimic. And so if you're going out there with these preconceived notions, you're going to see exactly what you expect to see 9 times out of 10.
Absolutely.
So that was kind of my point with it. Although the brother thing, that's just funnier. I'm going to stick with that. So
Put a blanks in his shotgun, so if he did shoot,
that's a
blanks.
good point. That's a really good point.
I didn't think about that. You're right. So, all right. Yeah, that's quite the prank.
They got him real good. Yeah.
You're sitting there laughing after this video comes out, going, "I can't believe he bought it." So, all right. Well, you guys make up your own mind if you believe this fella or not. And I'll say the channel one more time. It's Shanklin Shadow Productions. And the video is The Night I Almost Lost Everything, Tales of Navajo Skinwalkers. And we're going to move on to section 2. So if you are watching the live stream in real time, stay with us. We're moving on to the next topic. If you are watching this after the fact, guys, thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you next time. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Faith, Fiction, and Folklore. If you did, we would love it if you would subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Rumble. We can also be found on X, Instagram, and Facebook. And we are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Thank you again very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.